Daybreak instead of Nation Begins right now. We'll take a look at the dailies in just a bit there. There's a lot going on the front pages of the Daily Nation here. Ruto-linked farm wins back 113 billion shillings land deal. There's also House of Deals on the Standard here. But let me introduce my guests real quick. They're all already here. Honorable Dan Manzo is here. He's the Senator for Makueni. Thank you for making time. Honorable Sabina Chege is here, nominated Member of Parliament. Thank you for making time. Honorable Jared Okello, Member of Parliament for Nyando, is also with us. Asante sana for making time. And Honorable Peter Kaluma, Member of Parliament, Homa Bay Town. Thank you all for making time. Let's start off with the front page of the Standard here. House of Deals, Wheeler dealing. State House is the hallowed residence of the president and carries the nation's heritage apart from being the center of power. But recent claims are depicting the house on the hill as grounds for patronage, plunder and pillage under the president's watch. And Okello, I'll start with you on this because you're the first one here. There's been revelations during the last week, even from the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, alluding to this same effect, House of Deals. In fact, his was more specific, even outlined the 40,000 metric tons of fertilizer that were allegedly given to Kenya as a donation from Russia, but then were sold to Kenyans. So who should we believe here? Is this really a House of Deals, or is it that when the crocodile comes out of the lake and says the hippo is sick, who do you believe?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Trevor, and good morning, Kenya. And good morning to my colleagues here, whom we work with in the House. Not the house on the hill, but the house in town, which is Parliament. So we have to create a distinction between the two houses. Standard Group lately has had very sensational headlines. But when you read them, you try to get to the bottom of what the allegations or the headlines that they put, there is basically zero. I have read this, the House of Deals, and I thought there are deeper revelations that they have lately on the House of Deals. But it is just what Rigathi Gachagua and my former Speaker, Justin Muturi, have been talking about. And these two people have since exited government. So you can relate the sour grapes that are in the offing. However, we also understand that the Standard Group has had a little bit of financial difficulties, leading to laying off very, very many workers. In fact, there has been a demonstration at the Standard Group by workers, demanding pay. So they, in a bid to bounce back, come up with very, very sensational headlines to win people's loyalty, to buy. So you understand where the Standard will be coming from by running away from objectivity. Suffice to say, Muturi, my former Speaker, was the Attorney General before he was moved to the Ministry of Public Service. Any procurement, and this is by law, PFM Act, the Public Procurement Act, any deal beyond £1 billion shillings must seek concurrence of the Attorney General. Now, he's been Attorney General the last 2 years, or for 2 years while in that office. And all these documents were coming before him. He never raised any alarm then. Now that he has left both the office of the Attorney General and the State Law Office, together with the Public Service Ministry, now he has all the latitude to tell us all the things that were wrong during his time, his tenure in that office. If indeed he's proactive, as you'd want us to believe now, and he's a very good friend of mine, he ought to have raised the red flag then. Then he would have a lot of objectivity in his approach to issues, and Kenyans would have an iota of belief in what he's trying to drive now. But we have to remember, Trevor, that this is a duo, Muturi and Rigathi, who are out now, firstly, to galvanize the Mount Kenya region, and number two, to have everybody in Mount Kenya gravitate towards their political leaning, just because they are bitter losers. Losers that have been eclipsed from their most coveted offices that they hitherto occupied. So we also must understand their agitation from that front. But remember, Trevor, that during our agitation as Azimio, and I'm glad that three of us are full, all of us actually are Azimio here. Now one, fully, because they have refused to join Kenyans in the broad-based arrangement so that we can push the country forward. But these same issues, we raised them during the time for, the protests that we had. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua is on record telling the country that he reports to work at 5 in the morning to deal with us. To deal with us, because we were raising the same pertinent issues that he is now trumpeting at the top of his voice. At one time, we had to cancel our Kamukunji rally because we were going to parade what we had in terms of the misgovernance at the time, particularly the misgovernance in the Deputy President's office, some of which came forward during our impeachment motion. Now, we had intelligence that we were going to be shot indiscriminately. The president was actually out of the country, you remember, and somebody was reporting at 5 a.m. in the morning to go and deal with us. So we had to cut short, we had to cancel our very important rally that was going to come up with more revelations as regards his office as deputy president then.
So if you had concerns then, and they valid now?
Well, they could still be valid. They could still be valid. But it also depends on who is then telling Kenyans now issues that we raised many years ago, some of which you never know could have already been handled. So we are dealing with sour grapes in this point. Muturi and Rigathi Gachagua. Let
me bring in Honorable Sabina Chege on this. Is this about the politics of Mount Kenya, or are these genuine corruption allegations being raised by people who've actually served in government?
Thank you very much, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm glad to be here this morning. You know, Trevor, as we look at these headlines, sometimes we ask what's the motive and what's the motivation, or where are we trying to drive this country to? And you see, if today Sabina Chege wakes up and says a goat is a cow, then do you, as a journalist, go and look for facts, or do you just write because Sabina said? I think that's where we need to ask ourselves those hard questions. As a former journalist, I'm a bit sometimes amazed and sometimes shocked by what we feed to our audiences. I understand because of the competition in the media, there's now a lot of social media, so we must look for space to sell our newspapers or for people to watch us, and sometimes sensational news appear to attract. And so the big question I ask myself when I see these headlines and the people the information has come from is that why didn't they speak then, and why are they speaking now? That's the first question. Number two, what is the motive of the people who have spoken, and do the, as we put this on print or as we communicate this to the nation, are we sensitive on what the information would do to the people of Kenya? I always say I love my country, and sometimes I make decisions by, some people might not understand why, but I love my country and I love my nation. And I have seen what has happened to our neighbors when people just incite citizens for the sake of incitement. So it's also good for us to look at the track record of the people who are giving this information. What did they say before, and why are they saying what they are saying now? So when you say the House of Deals and these things are happening, so that we've gone deeper, as we have said, you get a big headline, but once you read, the content is shallow. The content is, there's nothing in it. So when you see the House of Deals, you want to know then which are these deals. Well, we know, yes, sometimes these things happen, but are they factual in what we are reporting today? So I would say we need to be a little bit sensitive on the information we are giving out there. But also, the people who have been mentioned, have they been given a right to reply, or even have they been asked the question? Because this is my word against the other person I'm accusing. So for me, I'm a bit skeptical, and I just want to plead with the media. But the media is supposed to set the agenda of the nation, but not only set the agenda. Yes, it is true for people to speak, and I remember we mentioned that majority of us here are Azimio, formerly Azimio, and I think I was among the first people who said we need to speak as a nation. We need to look for solutions, because sometimes blame game, we don't benefit. And for us, as legislators here, we have a responsibility. So let us look at what has come out of this conversation, especially latest from the two, and also ask ourselves what was the track record of the people, not only even in the current position that they held, but previously, what kind of individuals were they?
Okay.
So can we trust them on the information they are giving us?
Okay.
That's my question.
And Manzo, can we trust them? Because, and is this about timing and motive, or is it about the things that are actually being said? Because at some point, even the former Prime Minister said that the 40,000 metric tons were donated from Russia and they were sold to Kenyans. Is it about timing and motive, or is it about the content that they are?
You know, the crocodile has come out of water and said the hippo is sick. And the truth of the matter is, this is a house of deals. And let me defend the Standard. Yeah. The Standard is in trouble because the government has put it into trouble. The government owes the Standard a lot of money. And they are holding this money purposely to squeeze it out. And this can happen to any media house in the country. So we cannot celebrate when the government is making every effort to kill the Standard. Pay the Standard.
That across board.
Yes, pay the Standard their money.
Even we are old.
Yeah, so pay all the media houses. Yeah. Stop killing the media houses, and that's where the deals begin. Remember, the first time Rigathi Gachagua talked, KICC was being sold. And when we asked many questions as members of parliament, because we were tenants there, and we were paying our rent, a lot of it. So there's no way KICC was bankrupt.
Sold or leased? Is this what Sabina Chege was talking about, like the wording of it?
Whatever it is, it was being sold. There's not, I'm a lawyer, and these two are lawyers. There is, you know, you can have a lease. If you have a lease for 100 years, what are you saying? It was being sold. That's the truth. The same thing happened to Bomas of Kenya. Where did the deal of 104 billion of share take place? That thing which was being procured, which I'm sure can be very cheap. Why did it not go into open tendering? What happened with that fertilizer deal, which that time was very controversial, and I remember it as Azimio. We really fought it, and the truth came out. So now that Rigathi is talking and Muturi are talking, there's no way an Attorney General, you know, an Attorney General is part of every single dealing in government and has a lot of information. And Muturi is not just any other Kenyan. He was a speaker for 10 years. He's a renowned lawyer. He's a very senior lawyer. And in fact, as a speaker, he made very many sound rulings. And that's a man who understands the law perfectly. So if there is somebody who understood how to run the office of the Attorney General, it was Muturi. And therefore, later on, the president had put him there. In fact, the next proposal the president made was somebody who the last time practiced law or was cleared by the Law Society was 1992. I am glad she declined, because it would have made a worse choice of an Attorney General. Right now, we have a serious Attorney General who I'm sure will also guide the government accordingly. And we have also ODM watching the government from inside. And I'm very sure you saw what ODM did about the assassinations and the kidnappings. You know, the moment Raila Odinga was challenged in South Africa when he was running for African Union, what about the kidnappings in Kenya? ODM spoke. And the president quickly said, we are going to stop this kidnapping. These are international criminal activities. They also are cooked in State House.
Okay. Let me bring in Kaluma on this. Kaluma, is this headline sensational, or is there something that needs to be looked at?
I don't know what happened to my brother when he left us in the National Assembly for the Senate. But it appears, you know, senators have also joined the media in spewing information without factual basis. Honorable Manzo, those things you are speaking about, we deal with them in the House. There is no property of government which can be leased or privatized or sold out without the approval of the representatives of the people. And the representatives of the people are not in the Senate. They are in the National Assembly. So that Honorable Manzo is represented by his MP. He represents the county of Makueni, full stop. And that is why when you go to the Senate, Trevor, you get the flag of counties. When you go to the National Assembly, you see the sculptures of people on the roof.
So we are the people Kajwang was talking about. So wherever you are in doubt about, this information being spewed by the media, consult your National Assembly colleagues, and the media should listen to us more. Let me say that we are among the very few countries in the world with a whole chapter in the Constitution, in fact, a whole article, Article 10, dealing with national values and principles of governance. And Trevor, among those values is something called patriotism. We are called, in as much as we can hate individuals, to love our country, stand for our institutions, and really uphold them. You saw even the elections which happened in the United States. Even at the inauguration, Biden and all those leaders of the other political divide, the Democrats, were there, all the former presidents. And from that moment, if you asked any of them, who is your president? It is President Trump. In Kenya, we don't appear to end campaigns. People just campaign from elections to elections. In Kenya, we don't appear to love our institutions, to love our country. I mean, you may have a problem with President Ruto as an individual, but when you go attacking the institution of the presidency, a hallowed house like State House, with information you cannot prove, without proper basis, you are committing a very unpatriotic act. Remember, when the newspaper splashes things like they are doing, it is not just read by Kenyans. The whole globe is in the country. The Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation newspaper are some of the biggest, not just in Kenya, but in the region. And remember, these media also have digital platforms. Now, when you go printing something like House of Deals about the sanctified house of the state, imagine you wrote this of White House. In some countries, it is going, particularly if you don't have proper information like this one, you are going towards, sedition, those things which can destabilize the state. You remember, yesterday, was it yesterday or so? I hate to discuss individuals, but do you remember KTN News was there with the former deputy president, and you remember the things he was talking about, our relationship with other sovereign states in a global village where the sovereignty, the integrity of our state has to be kept. You listen to them and you ask, what has become of our country? Can't we have a limit in terms of those things we can play around with? And have a point where we say, on this one, you must stop for the love of country. Okay. And so, without even going into details, because I personally, Trevor, hate discussing individuals. I want to deal with issues. There is a good reason as to why, Trevor, we fought for freedom of the press. And then for the first time in our constitutional arrangement, you have two articles of the Constitution, Article 34 and Article 35, speaking to the matter of free flow of information to sustain our democracy, but also saying the press will be free. There are levels where our media must know they play a critical role in governance. There is a role of information. That's a role that must be executed very responsibly, because we are dealing with a very diverse society. We are not where, Brother Manzo, countries like the United States are. Yeah. We have a country, you think with a bit, you have a problem with nationhood the next minute. So I wanted to say that the Standard Media Group has been very sensational in the past. And if you follow me on Twitter, I've been asking what has become of one of our oldest and best newspapers. So much so, Trevor, that these newspapers are brought to our offices as MPs. I can tell you, you've noted even here, I'm not looking at that headline of the Standard. It's very unfortunate. These newspapers used to be very informative. I don't know how it benefits them when they go attacking statehood, just spewing things which are unproven. And my call to the media is that be a bit more responsible, be a bit more, patriotic, even as you play your role in governance. But most importantly, Trevor, for the people who serve in critical offices, Trevor, you cannot serve in the cabinet, whether as a deputy president or as a member of the cabinet, without swearing an oath of allegiance and some oath to do things in particular way. Two fundamental things you swear to is that you'll be a faithful counselor to the president. But number two, you shall keep secret anything you come across in the due discharge of your duties. And by the way, there is a reason as to why you swear it. Because look,
Does that even cover corrupt dealings?
No, there is a structure.
Or crime.
There is a structure. Corrupt deals are not things you do in the due execution of your duty. but I'm saying you are given as a cabinet minister or a member of the cabinet the platform from where you can address those issues as a matter of governance. When you go out and you start telling us there is corruption here, how do we prove it? And why don't you use that platform to deal with it? Particularly when you know where you are coming from. You know, Trevor, Manzo, let me now tell you, colleagues, the only committee I've served in since I joined Parliament is the Committee on Administration and National Security. And that is the committee that oversees the Deputy President. That is the committee that budgets for the Deputy President. That is the committee that oversees the budget of the Deputy President. Don't invite us to call Gachagua if he's not here. He's not worth our time in this media. We know much more. But we take the position that we want to, having taken oath to assist in governance. Some of these things they are doing, they should remember that in serious countries, the criminal justice systems would be on them. And on the face of it, very many people will not be free. But we don't want to go that way. We don't want to go that way, but let us be responsible. And as Kenyans, maybe I call upon our people to look at somebody like Gachagua and see whether it's worth our listening to. I think we give relevance to people for far too long.
But what stops the administrative system against going after any of those two? If they've made a mistake, why can't they be held?
I posted the other day that I don't know why Gachagua is free 24 hours, beyond 24 hours after he said those things. In a serious country, this is a guy who would be somewhere, undergoing prosecution. But that is the weakness of Ruto. I don't know his problem with not dealing with them.
So is the police now failing? Because you are...
The police arrests. The police does not prosecute.
So
I'm saying it is a whole chain. The DPP in particular, time comes when we say, whoever you are, because if you keep leaving people as they do these bad things, it becomes a habit and people take it normal. So I think we are creating people in a manner that the rule of law, and remember the rule of law is another national value. What is the idea of the rule of law? Everybody is equal before the law. People like Gachagua, the DPP is failing the country if he looks at its mandate. I think some of them should be undergoing prosecution by now.
Okay. Savina, you want to say something?
I want to say something here because I think these people who are seeking for attention. We've seen Gachagua making decisions or judgments that we may say they were not sober. When I watched that interview, the person who was the interviewer said this was upon his request. And when I followed, it's like the interview, already the questions had been given. This is what you are to ask me, because there was already an intended purpose or the intention of the interview. So it was not the media that looked for him. I heard from the introduction, he said it was upon the request.
Is it not the same with the president? Is it that's what the president did in the central
I have said this was, I'm not talking about
it is
the
same script.
I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about this.
Yeah, but it's the same script.
We're talking about a specific matter that was raised. So when you say it was upon the request, we can discuss what the president said, because also that one was upon the request. But on this one, So the questions were also intended. So you can see the direction now you're asking, should we arrest? And I think that's what they are trying to seek for attention.
Should he be arrested? Should Gachagua be arrested?
I don't think so, because we'll be falling into a trap, or the country will be falling into a trap where one individual wants us to discuss him. That is why we woke up in the morning instead of discussing development.
We shouldn't discuss Gachagua.
That's not the case, Trevor.
Let me finish.
The case
I need to
is very simple.
I need to finish.
Let her finish.
I need to finish because I have a chance. Yeah. So we should be discussing about issues and matters that need to be addressed of interest to the nation. That by the time we finish this show, we can have maybe something that we can be able to prosecute in Parliament, or we can be able to help Kenyans. But when it becomes about individuals, about what they say versus what the other person says, then we are...
So let's be specific. On the 40,000 metric tons of fertilizer,
yes.
Are you as legislators aware that this was given as a donation and it was later on sold to Kenyans or not?
We are not.
We are aware. Let me say myself, I'm aware because I'm in the Committee of Agriculture.
So you're aware it was a donation?
And yes. And when it was raised, and when that matter was raised, there is also a statement that was given, and I'll share with you the statement. And about the fertilizer that came, and these were the raw materials, and the company, there was a bidding process that went on, and the company that made the fertilizer that can be able to be used by farmers, and then later given a subsidy fertilizer to the farmers. So that statement is there. I can share it with you, and at your own time, you can go through that statement. Okay. So what I am saying is, when such an issue comes in, it is an issue that even ourselves at the Committee of Agriculture came. Remember, even when the issue of the fake fertilizer came, we prosecuted it in Parliament. So these are not news that we are talking about. And the big question is, certain positions in government comes with certain responsibility. And it's not a matter of, I wanted somebody else, or the president, or whether it's the deputy or whoever, to look bad. But the question is, when you took the oath of that office, what are the things? There are things that certain positions that you'll die even without talking about them because of the sensitivity of the matter and where they would lead this country. By the time you as a citizen and a patriotic citizen of this Republic of Kenya who purports to love your country, who is purporting to be a person who wants either to be a savior of this nation, and you're already saying your presence should be sanctioned, you come up with statements that can put us at a very dangerous position with our neighbors. You're already saying we are working with some, people from the other side who are bringing instability in their countries. You're already saying the businesses that are being done in this country. Where do you want to leave this country? Yes, as you say, you are sensitive. Yes, you want to try and give the information or to be the truthful as you want or you purport to be. But there's some information. And as Kaluma said, some of those information is where you can take that information. Okay. And I think it is good as we go to these offices. We need to be vetting individuals.
All right.
We need to be looking at...
You Manzi and Jared Okello have been quiet for a while. I have to take a quick commercial break now. We're back in just a short while. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're back in a moment.